Yo, what's up? This is your boy DR Period, and you watching the number one show, Be Shine, on the line that shine and that blows people mind. DR Period, Rock Boy. Well, growing up for me was really an exciting thing because as a youngin', I was one of those guys that was always around music. So music was like a household thing. It wasn't even a thing that I was supposed to be doing. Well, it ended up turning into something that I was supposed to be doing. But growing up in a house full of musicians and constantly being around music, it just started running through my bones and running through my blood, and it started being embedded in my mind. So at a younger age, going into schools, and all the schools had music programs. So the programs that I used to get into, in school, they was kind of cool, but you didn't really learn but so much until I got into, I say, junior high school, in which that's considered middle school to some people. But when I got into that school, I had a music teacher by the name of Stick Evans, and he was like James Brown drummer. So he the one opened my mind to various instruments, learning how to play keyboards, guitar, bass, drums, and etc. So, it was kind of cool, being in that situation at that time, because if you was on a band and you was somebody that played the drums, you was kind of like the star football player on the football team. That's how I was in my school. So that was good, but coming up young and then getting into the music game is a whole different introduction, because my mom, she was a manager. So she used to manage like groups like Crown Heights Affairs, BT Express, Earth, Wind and Fires, all of them in the early days, because like my house was like that one-stop stop for musicians where all musicians come and they all just get in the basement and start jamming, because that's what my household was consist of. But I know some people probably heard this story, but at the same time they didn't know that all those musicians who turned out to be very popular in those days, is like amazing musicians. They taught me a lot. They showed me how to stay on an instrument and stay on your grind, but without me knowing that that's what I was being taught. So being young and learning at that stage of my young years, I can't even say my career, but at my young years of understanding my role in life, then that's when I started hanging out with neighborhood cats. And the guys that I was hanging out in the neighborhood, they was into different things. First it was a street thing that I did. Then I got over that phase. Then it became about beatboxing, being a human beatbox. So I used to have friends like Biz Markie, Dougie Fresh, Rozelle, Beatbox Wise, DMX from Just Ice. Actually, DMX used to be, me and him used to go to school together in junior high school, and that's when he first made the record Latoya with Just Ice. So we grew up, and all these guys from being human beatbox kind of was in the music business and doing it a certain way. And I still didn't understand what the music business was about. So like when Biz went on and started doing the rap and really making records, I still was trying to find my way. So I'm young, trying to figure it all out. But eventually all what they was doing rubbed up off on me. And that's when I say my name used to be Daryl D. It was a Dr. Daryl D. I think the doctor came in when I started rap. No, actually it started when I was DJing. Dr. Daryl D was the DJ / wannabe producer. Then I started rapping. It was Daryl D. Dr. Daryl D, the human beatbox. So I was one of those guys that rap, beatbox, DJ, and did it all. But, I could be on this all day. This is a book, this is a movie of my life. One day I was on the block. My brother Timo, him and a couple other friends used to hang out uptown. Now, this is when I was living in Brooklyn. They used to hang out uptown, and, being uptown, you was introduced to hip-hop real quick. Brooklyn didn't really get the feel. I think when they came back and started rapping, and I was like, yo, this sound dope. But I did not know they was rapping the Cold Crush, the Furious Five lyrics, but they were just rapping, and the way they was doing it, it was so impressive. So I think that was the most memorable time of me being introduced to hip hop. And then Sugar Hill Gang Records was out, and there was another record years ago by Jimmy Spicer called Super Rhyme. And actually, I met Jimmy Spicer when I was young, and his brother Cameo and another friend of mine's, Waz, they was like, yo, he made the record Super Rhyme, and that made me go, wow, they making records. The dudes is doing it big. So I think that was my most memorable moment of being introduced to hip hop at that point. And two, what really motivated me to get in the game was when I started seeing all my human beatbox friends making records. But what really turned it over was when I started getting my hands on a drum machine. Now, I don't want to tell this story. It's really deep, but I'm going to give you a little brief of it. Because some things people can come back now these days and create suits and all that stuff against. But anyway, I actually got my hands on a drum machine called a Dr. Rhythm. And this drum machine, the Dr. Rhythm, a lot of y'all might not know what this drum machine, that was like one of the first drum machines that I see that made like sounds, but I played it one time. But before the Dr. Rhythm was a drum machine called a Soul Sonic Drum. And when I got my hands on that, that's when it started changing. Actually, I can tell you the story. There was a guy on my block, his mother bought him a Soul Sonic Drum for Christmas. And my mom's bought me a coat and a pair of shoes. And I went to his house. He was kind of disappointed about his, drum machine for Christmas. And me, I was feeling fresh. So I went over there and I ended up trading this guy my coat and my shoes for his drum machine. And I went home. My mom's lost her mind. But she's a manager, so she understands the musicianship that was in me. So she's like, well, you willing to sacrifice the coat on your back to do this music, then I'm going to support you. And that what really turned it up for me on the production side. So the turntable thing became, okay, local, do parties, do a couple different things in the neighborhood. It was cool, but I wasn't really a driven hard drive DJ, but I was a driven hard drive producer in the making. Like, I went to a studio session. My brother, Bernard, he was an engineer for a very popular producer called Fred Czar, who did like Debbie Gibson, Madonna, a bunch of them, and he was engineering in the studio. That was the first time I went to someone's house and literally seen a studio built in their house. I could not believe it, and that was on a real professional level. Then locally, there was a guy named Flash Gordon. He was a producer from around the way, and I went in his house. He had his vocal booth in his bathroom, and he had this board, and then he was doing Salt and Pepper, and he was producing records for Salt and Pepper. Then he was producing records for a lot of local people that really blew up, and that's when I knew, like, you know what? Producing is definitely me. So that's when I started really getting into the beats. Then I started making beats for local rappers and giving them beats and stuff like that. Somebody said, yo, I'll pay you to just make a beat for my girl because I want to talk to her. And I never forget this. It's a brother named K-Bar. He said, hey, man, I got problems with my woman. Yo, is it okay that I pay you a couple dollars and make a beat and I could just talk on the mic to a woman? So I had my little microphone in the hallway and I made my beat. And we was recording it live on the radio. Like, when I say recording live, that means press and record and play on a boom box. And he do what he's doing, but the mic wasn't even on. It wasn't connected to that. It was just the feeling of him being on the mic, but the boom box was recording everything in the room. So I had to speak the drums coming out another set of speakers, and that's how we did it. And then that's when I knew that I could make money from it. And then I started hearing about all the stories of my homeboys who was beatboxing, going out, coming back fresh, getting cars and all that. So yeah, everything that I do is a blessing, because I never thought that me being able to sell 30 million records as a producer, I never even imagined selling records. It wasn't about selling records. It was really all about just seeing if I could make a record. And to end up selling over 30 million records, that right there, I hold close to me. And, you know, the experience of selling the records is crazy because it's like how I got some of the beats off. Like, I remember when I did a beat for Freedom Williams CNC Music Factory. When I went to do, I was actually living in Brooklyn on Herkimer Street, and he was living on Herkimer on the next block in Brooklyn. And this is where they was just getting a deal over at Sony, and they was becoming CNC Music Factory. So, you know, they was doing their thing, and he used to walk past my house. I see this guy always coming through with a briefcase. And I was like, yo, you know, who this dude is, you know? And then we stopped, we talked. We had a lot in common, more than what we know, you know? So he came in. He's like, I always hear music coming from this house. But you a DJ? I said, yeah, I DJ, but, you know, I'll be messing around with drum machines. And he came in and heard some beats. He was going crazy. And I never forget, I remember RZA used to say, this was when he was Rakim. He was on Tommy Boy. Me and was boys. He said, yo, man, you do that pop music, you gonna be on a whole nother level. And I was like, pop music? So that's when I started doing stuff with CNC Music Factory. And that when things changed. But it was on a pop side. Then I switched over. Well, I didn't switch over, but I actually went back to the street stuff. And, you know, I used to have Mel Quan was managing me. RZA, you know, was a producer. He was a rapper. Then this when he would just start Wu-Tang and all that. And he used to be like, yo, we got to keep it in the street and stuff like that. And I was like, yo, you know what? It's kind of dope. So that's when I ran across my boy Lays. And I could say the MOP experience was amazing to me because first it was Lil Fame, then it was Bill. It's a long story. I could tell you how that whole group thing came together, how we put it together. But doing MOP really turned my bar up in the streets. So when I first did the first record with MOP was How About Some Hardcore. So when I did that record, right, that was actually the first record we ever recorded, MOP and DR period, How About Some Hardcore. And that was the first record that got the deal. And that's when we got signed to Select Records. And then Select Records loved that record so much, they said, yo, do the whole album. And I ended up doing the whole album. I did the whole album but one song, Guns N' Roses. And actually that was done by Silver D. And at that time, he was the A&R of Select Records. So with that, that was a memorable moment. And even another one that sparked that whole era. Then I came with Smooth the Hustler. And when I did Smooth the Hustler, you know, when I did Broken Language, that made people go like, yo, hold on, what is going on with this dude, DR period, you know? And I say those two situations alone was really, really, really crazy for me in the beginning stage and really hitting the streets and really getting the street credibility. And then after that, you know, I started messing with Nas, AZ, I did More Money, More Murder. I messed with DMX, did Pearl Cut Raw with DMX, 8 Ball, it was so many, Cannabis was on it, like, yeah, it was so many records I was doing at that time. I messed with Shaheem, I was doing, like, it was not one rapper moving around that I wasn't having production on. Like, those was the memorable moments when I kind of locked into that whole circle of hip-hop at its purest form. Then I started working with Public Enemy. I mean, like, you name them, I did it. Then working with Jay and all these people, like, Big and all these, it really, really was dope. It was really dope for me. Well, my family is a musician family. So it was about the instrument in my family. But no one in my family took it as far as I took it. I actually learned how to not just become a producer, but I learned how to become a businessman about what I was doing. Because I think when you're doing production and you understand in business, at the same time, then you have more of a plan of why you're doing production, you know, because to me, production was something that I just loved doing. But my family was so supportive. Like, my mom's literally like, we had a house on a street called Hopkinson, now it's called Thomas Ball in Brooklyn. And it was a 2-family house, and I was on the second floor, and she was on the top floor, and they had 2 kitchens. She literally closed one kitchen down and said, "You're gonna do your music in here." So can you imagine like having stuff like this in a kitchen with a sink and a stove next to you? Crazy. But that's how supportive my family was. And every step that I took, they was with me. Like my brother, he's a contractor. He helped me build all my studios. You know, my other brothers, you know, they was real like good thinkers. Like they motivators, and they was out there helping me develop street team presence and all that. Like everything. Like my sister, she was out there. I remember my sister supported me so much. One day I had like these CDs that I was trying to sell, and I think it was a company that gave us some T-shirts. They gave us over like 100 T-shirts, and I put the T-shirts and the CDs together and told my sister to go downtown and see if you can get rid of these CDs, and if they buy CDs, give them a free T-shirts. She sold the T-shirts and she sold the CDs. She came back with over like $2,500. I could not believe that. So this is my family supporting me. So yeah, my family always, my brothers and rappers, all that. So they was like really on top of me. They was behind me, supporting me all the way. My wife, I can't leave her out because she was the biggest supporter of them all. She been with me from day one. She bought my first official mic. It was a Gold Shore mic, I never forget. And she got mad at me because I let somebody hold it and they lost it, so-called lost it. But yeah, I want to just thank her, my wife, being a real supportive to me. Being in the music business and being your own business, that's a challenge, you know. Every musician, every artist, every producer knows that the music business is not an easy business. Like everybody think it's easy because you're in the studio making records. That's not even like half of the job. That's not even a third of the job. That's just like a personal preference right there, I see, you know. But what is the challenge is being able to take what you do and make people respect that. And not only make people respect that, really make people buy into it. And every day I used to go to labels and make presentations of music, constantly playing beats. We call them pitching, you know, for placements. And I used to go pitch. They'll buy one, they'll buy two. Sometimes they don't even buy none. But then it'd be times where they'll buy like 10, you know. And that is always a challenge because your biggest hit is like you go start with your biggest hit, and the next thing you find yourself again starting all over again. So every time you make a hit record, just because you made a hit record, you're popular now, people think it's going to be easy for you. It actually get harder because when you become a certain status, when you get a certain status in this business, your money changes. So your stocks go up. So what used to be $1,000 beat is no longer $1,000 beat. It's like 20 grand, you know what I mean? Like 30 grand a track. And then when that momentum of hits go down, then you got to start accepting 10, 5,000 a beat. But then when you get that next hit, then you go right back up to 20. So it's crazy, but it goes up and down. And that's the thing. That's the hardest challenge of being in this business, is learning how to survive and staying around. But that's just from the money side. The key to winning and the key to staying in business, you have to love what you do. Because if you don't love what you do, then you can't do it well. And two, you have to humble yourself and have God in you all day. And then without God, you ain't got nothing. I don't care what anybody say. So those are two things. You connect God, give him the glory and everything, and love what you do. I was proud that I had the opportunity, the opportunity that some people gave me. Like some A&Rs could have been like, nah, we ain't buying this, or nah, we ain't. Like Silver D, him signing MOP, that was the opportunity of the birth of DR period and the street credibility level. Where like Freedom Williams was like giving me an opportunity to do music for CNC Music Factory. That was an opportunity. Lazy Lays was like, you know, giving me an opportunity to work with MOP and doing stuff like that. You know, the opportunities is what I really hold, you know, to my heart the most. And one of the other things is that learning as I go along, you know, like I had to learn how to not just play on the machine, but learn how to wire the machine, learn how to wire the, the boards, learn how to put all the components in the right places, learn how to do the technical stuff and, also the creative stuff at the same time. After selling over 30 million records and making hit records, people will remember the hit records. One of my ultimate goals is making sure that people understand that when DR Period did what he was doing, he had God first. He was a man of God. He came in, gave God glory, and he did the music. And one of the good things, I do good business. See, a lot of people don't understand this music business will turn you into, like, you could be a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde just because you're in the music business. But I learned to just be appreciative being in the music business and staying a good person, matter if I'm making money or not making money, because money is not what makes a person, And one of the things that I was taught early in the business is that if you can keep it humble and you can keep God in your life, you'll go far. And that's what kept me around for so many years. And one of the things that I want to pass on to the brothers who's coming up and the sisters who's coming in this business, stop trying to be slick. Stop trying to look at this as a fast hustle. Stop trying to step on other people to get to where you want to go. Just do you. Appreciate what you're capable of doing, and other people will accept it. Trust me. You don't have to be grimy to get to the top. Just be humble. I started my company, Next Level Entertainment. When I first started that company, it was in 1990. We started that company. And when I started the company, I didn't have hits under my belts like that. I just was starting to surface. And how a production company can change your life, and really understanding what a production company can do, and all the deals that I got as a production company. And in those days, I was one of the few production companies that, I don't know, maybe I could have probably been the only one that controlled my budget from the labels. A lot of artists just had to invoice the labels and every activity they did, but for me to actually have the money in my hand and control my own budget was amazing. And that was an incredible story right there, watching certain artists come up to me and go, wow, how do you do it? Like, how do y'all get control of your own money? It's the way I came in, because I came in as an independent, not knowing I was doing independent records then. And then forming Rockboy Records is another dope situation. For example, I did this record called Money, right? And this record, Money, that I did was designed to be a placement for a TV show called Breaking Bad. So I did this record, Money, for the Breaking Bad TV show. And I could say about a week later, after the show came out and aired and the record was on there, I go online, just type my name just to see what's going on with me. My record is up there, and there's a picture of this guy smoking a cigarette. I don't even know who this guy was. And then I realized, oh, snap, that's the guy from Breaking Bad. Then I look at the views, it said 30,000 views. I was like, wow, who put this record up here and how this happened? So I goes in my green room, and I shoot a fun video. I had a camcorder. I didn't have an HD camera, but I shot a funny video. Well, I felt it was funny, and put it up. And I started noticing the views was jumping. And I get a call from Sony Records. And they's like, yo, what are you doing with that Money record? I was like, wow, this record is taking off. And I was like, taking off? It ain't even out. No, it's out. It's online. It's everywhere. So I worked the deal out. Sony comes in and they gives me a distribution deal. Then I put the record out. And I say within 6 months, I got over 1 million something views on the record and did over 70,000 in downloads. And then to this day, my download game is serious right now on that record. So I would say to everybody who supported the Money record, I never really got a chance to say thank you. I want to say thank you to, Even Spirit Music for even putting me out there and helping me get this Breaking Bad placement and everything. So I want to just thank everybody for all the support they gave me, and I ain't never get a chance to do that. I want y'all to all look and keep your eyes open and pay attention to what DR Perry is doing with Rock Boy Records. We have some new releases out now. We have my group, OCR Couples, that's out now. My group, 120. My group, Rockboy G's. My group, Rockboy G Bang Squad. Zay the Doughboy. You got the DR Perry record out. Mac Peoples. We got Barry Goods. I mean, we got a nice team. We got Mariko Turner. You know, I want y'all all to just pay attention to what Rock Boy's doing and how we turning it up. And we got a lot of new releases out. And then I also got a series of beat-making movies that's out called Beats for the People. I want y'all to tune into that and check them out. I think y'all are going to enjoy it. Y'all going to have a good time. It's something different that you normally don't see producers doing when it comes to the beat-making process.